I want to tell you how our community made this game and what happens when it's played. Now, I'm an experiential learner for sure. This definitely describes me. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So when I went to play for Agile in 2010, which I helped organize in Germany, I had in mind to create a game, and I brought with me Don Gray's Fearless Change index cards, which I had found somewhere on the web. Meanwhile, Ole Jepsen from Denmark arrived inspired by the book Switch, How to Change Things When Change is Hard, which talks about decision making and how it's not merely logical, but it also is led or led astray by emotions. And organizations similarly have logic and culture. And change agents often find themselves riding or being led astray by the elephant of culture. And so when Ole said, let's design a leadership game, this all came together, and you'll see it was a community effort. A dozen of us workshopped the concept, led by Antti Kirjavainen from Finland. And that night I designed the game in my room, tested it the next day with a participant at the conference who happened to be a client, so we knew the issues. And it had surprising results. Since then, it's been translated into French, German, Spanish, Japanese, and we were gifted a Dutch version by a group that had discovered the game and was using it in the domain of affordable public housing. They just said, hey, we've translated, do you want this? Which was awesome. So I'd like to show you, if we were all here, I'd have you, come and stand around and have a look at the cards. So I'm just going to show you a couple of slides. I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but just enough so that the stories I tell you make sense. If you want to know more, just check out fearlessjourney.info. Everything is there. So it's a table game with a card deck that you can download and print, or you can purchase a deck. Also, these tiles, which create a path, and some small blank index cards. That's what you need to play. And the gameplay is to create a path from today to your big goal using the path cards. What's cool about the game is that even though we're playing, we use a real challenge of a real team. So they name their stuckness today, and also they name a big goal that they cannot reach by themselves. And then, in addition to that, the team themselves writes the obstacles for the game on the blank cards. And then we have the magic of play, where the players use the Fearless Change strategy cards to remove the obstacles. And of course, the magic sauce is collaboration. The real goal of the game, of course, is not so much to teach the patterns. There's a lot of details in the books, and we hope that one of the players is inspired to go and look and read and learn more. But the real goal is to inspire a new way to influence change in a real situation, and to model a culture of open collaboration and problem solving. The key is that the facilitator of the game must hold a space of play, where new things are possible and where the business as usual rules don't apply, which allows the strategy cards to have a chance to inspire courage, new alliances, and new possibilities. So note that in the game, the mechanism is not to solve the problem or to be sure. The mechanism is to agree together that the patterns might work and that they're worth trying, to play with them. It's this lightness that lets people engage and explore. So what happens when we play? Well, first of all, just writing the obstacles gives people permission to openly talk about their frustrations. And the facilitator's presence is really important because the facilitator needs to remove the authority voice. Resist participating. Resist giving them the answers. Just maintain the clear rules, because they will ask, oh, are we allowed to do this? Or, some rule in the game is not clear. And this is the first culture hack that you're going to do, which is to say, you can decide. Or what would you do in real life? So that they stop looking outside the circle of the game and look inward toward each other and decide what they want to do. And then you'll see that they start out with their cards in their hand like a normal poker game. But soon enough, they should be laying their cards on the table. And you'll find that they're moving them around, sharing them, touching other people's cards. And the boundaries between what's mine and what's yours start to get kind of blurry. They may also go into old habits of long discussions, arguing, and endlessly tweaking the ideas that are on the table. This is another hack that the facilitator brings. This is not about consensus. It's not about perfection. When I facilitate, before the game begins, I teach them the decider protocol from Software for Your Head, which some people call Roman vote, but there's more to it, and I encourage you to read it. When I notice that they're starting to devolve into picky details or even, furious agreement with one another, which wastes time, I say, why don't you just try the decider? And the first time it's a little resistance, but then they realize that it quickly gives them the information they need to know if they can move on. So then they get into the flow of the game and they start solving each other's obstacles. Here's some of the things I've seen happen. They stop accepting it just has to be that way here. And they start discussing the undiscussable. And they are able to hold their contributions lightly. So they can suggest, even if they don't understand fully how it's going to connect to what's on the table. Even if they're not sure if it's going to be in the final solution, they can contribute and know that the group will work with it and come up with something that fits. They also start offering perspectives. So different people see the problem from different angles. And one angle that I often hear is, yeah, that could work, but only if we add a management buy-in aspect to it. Does somebody have a card for that? And then they start looking at their cards and, oh, I have this one. Oh, what about this one? Then they discuss one more time. Then they vote again with decider. Ah, yeah, now people feel that that's got a chance. Because different voices are adding what they know about the problem. And I've heard from more than once that a group says, oh, we're using decider all the time at work now. A debrief is part of the game. And here's some of the things I've heard in the debrief. At work we don't share our problems. But when we shared our problems here, we got better solutions. And some people enjoy the part about saying thank you to the people who help you solve your problem. When Ole's teenage daughter played it with her schoolmate, they, instead of saying thank you, they were cheering and giving each other a high five, and they quite enjoyed it. So just let the flavor of your team develop whatever comes out of this game. I played this in a country that had a really wicked problem that was entrenched by the government's hiring policies. And they didn't even want to play the game with this problem. I said, try it. And in the end, they only played for about 20 minutes, and then they couldn't stop talking. It had sort of released it has to be here this way. And somebody said, you know what, if we could find somebody who has influence in this aspect of the problem, then we could move it forward. And then they were talking about a real solution, and they left the table in the middle of the game, which is great. That's what you want. The culture hack is letting people have fresh eyes on old problems, letting them give themselves permission to say what's true, even if it's awkward or they've said it before and it hasn't helped. To lean on each other's vision, on each other's perspectives, and to, use the patterns, this is the strength of the patterns, to reframe their understanding of where they could have influence. There's some variations on the website to this basic game. For example, there's a solitaire for consultants and leaders who don't have a team, who are new or who are working in some kind of isolation. And there's also Community Edition, which you can use at a conference where people aren't a team but they want to learn the game. Those are both on the website at fearlessjourney.info. Now we've been talking about play and imagining how they could solve it. It may be important for a team that needs a win to move into action, to move into real life, and to take the results of this and say, what do we have here that we want to try? And if there's too much or uncertainty, you could even use the solitaire exercises as a group facilitation to help them think through how they want to apply the ideas that they've found in playing the game. Now you'll notice that to help a team move forward, a leader doesn't need to have the answers with this game. They simply need to create a space where people feel safe to speak and to think together. Before I wrap up, I'd like to draw your attention to the butterfly on the card deck. That is not a decoration. That is a monarch. And every year, millions of monarchs migrate from their summer home in Canada to their other summer home in Mexico, about 3,000 miles, and back. That's a serious journey. And that fragile butterfly in the stormy blue sky is my invitation to you and to your teams. When you need to deliver something, or you want to bring something into the world and you feel stuck, when you feel powerless and you cannot control making those things happen, know that you have other ways to shift your environment. Know that there are influence strategies that you can bring into the mix to create the change that you need to see. I've really enjoyed using this game with people. I love seeing the hope come back into their eyes. So, if you've used this game, think for a minute, what have you seen happen? And what effect has it had on people?